let's talk about body count. So there's two ways that you can say, does it matter? One way you could say, does it matter, is do people care about it, right? So on the mating market, do people care about it? And we'll start with that, and then we'll go into the kind of deeper question that you want, because this is the simpler question, do people care? We see that most people, when you ask them, they want an average-ish body count in their partner, right?
What is...
Average-ish is kind of Goldilocks zone, a few to several, right? So it's and I think it's going to be a little, higher in Miami. I don't know, but anecdotally, but you know, allegedly. But most people, when you ask them, if you go up to women and you're like, okay, what would be the ideal body count in a guy? They won't say a virgin, right? And they won't say 100, right? They're going to say like a middling amount. I can't remember the exact number, but I believe it was around 6, right? And then you ask men, and they say around, I believe it was around 4. I'm not sure, but it was an average-ish count. And it wasn't a huge, but the other thing is like, that's the ideal, right? But if you ask someone what is your ideal husband's salary, right? What's your ideal husband's salary? They might say $2 million because you asked them for the ideal, right? Yeah. But in terms of who they'll date, they might date someone who's making $20K a year, right? Like it could be totally,
my boy, a little more than that.
It could be totally chill in practice. So so what the ideal is, it seems to be kind of an average-ish amount. But in terms of how important it is, there's varying results, but it doesn't seem to be that important to most people. My friend Alexander, who's a graduate researcher, he did a survey of several hundred people, and it wasn't a representative sample, but it was quite interesting. The result was basically most people, or about half of people, don't ask body count. And then when they do ask, they've usually seen the person for quite a while by the time they ask, right? And if it was something that was very important to most people, it would be something that you'd ask early, because if you're excluding people based on it. Then you look at who breaks up over body count. I believe it was men did care more than women. Men did care about it more than women, but it was a small portion of men. I believe 10% of men in his sample had ever stopped dating anybody because of body count. And then the body count number was relatively high. It was, I can't remember the exact number, but it was over 20. And then about 6% of the women in his sample had stopped dating someone because of body count. So some women, about, 1 in 20? It's probably not representative, so I wouldn't wedge yourself to any of these numbers, but a minority, but not a non-existent group of women will stop dating people over their body count. But again, it was a relatively high number. So I would say that most people seem to care about body count a little bit, but it's not that important. And they tend to want an average-ish number, and men and women tend to want a similar thing. They tend to want someone with an average-ish body count. So that's one version of how much does it matter. The other question of how much does it matter is how much does it predict behavior, right? Quite a bit. Quite a bit. Quite a bit.
The general
concern. It's not nothing. So there was one study of over 1,000 Americans that looked at this. It was from the IFS, and they ran, I believe it was 1,001 Americans actually, which is kind of a funny sample size. Almost sounds like, I don't know, book cover. But in any case, they asked 1,001 Americans about their body count, and then their divorce, like how divorced were they essentially, I believe it was. And when they split the data in a convenient way, I believe it was people with a body count under 5 were, and I really hope I'm just remembering this correctly, because I'm coming up with numbers based purely off memory. So if I'm wrong, I'll send you guys a DM.
Yeah, for sure.
I believe it was risk of either risk of infidelity or risk of divorce. I can't remember which it was in this specific study, doubled after a body count of 5, right? So people above 5, men and women, had a much higher chance of relationship issues. But that's just one study, and you really shouldn't hang your hat on it. It's more that the collection of studies seems to show that people who are more sociosexually unrestricted, people who have more partners, that is, generally, people who have more casual partners specifically, tends to have more issues in long-term monogamous relationships. However, there are so many things that are important. There are so many exceptions. And I really don't think it would be wise. Mating is so complicated that I really don't think it would be wise to reduce your mating decisions to one variable such as that. but it is a variable. And anyone who says it's not a variable is just, they're either not aware of the data or they're making stuff up for political reasons. Which I mean, it is what it is. I get it. And I get why you do that, because there are a lot of kind of weird misogynists online who are saying like body count. And they're only saying it in relation to women. But in every study I'm aware of on this topic, we see the same effects in men, right? So it's like men with higher body counts are more likely to cheat. Men with higher body counts are more likely to get divorced. Men with higher body counts are less likely to be satisfied in their marriages. Though that's the suite of results that we're seeing in these studies. It's also showing those things for women, but conveniently these kind of red pill freaks are like, it's women. And it's not a mystery why. It's because they have an agenda. They're not scientific thinkers. They don't like they don't like looking at evidence and coming to whatever decision the evidence shows. They have an idea preconceived, and then they cherry pick whatever facts they want to, sometimes from the same study, to build whatever ideology they want.
It's crazy that the obsession, every time you watch one of those snippets on social media, it's like the body count, and it's like, I don't know why they're so fixated on how many people the women have slept with. I don't understand.